Hello, welcome to True Hoop with me, Jarod, Hector, and Coach David Thorpe. How are you, sir?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. David is back from LA, where he was doing lots of basketball things, runs, enjoying some sunshine. Oh, did you see Pelton while you were out there?
Who?
Or Kevin Pelton. Not Pelton,
I
sorry.
only
Wrong. Arnovitz. Wrong, Kevin. Did you see Arnovitz?
I did not know this year. I did not. I flew out Sunday night. I flew out Wednesday. I flew back Wednesday morning.
Okay,
and
so quick. No time for.
I was in some excellent restaurants. I was in 4 gyms and some Uber rides. That's it. Didn't get a chance to do any laps. I just had no fucking time. And then the convention being on, I tried to get back at a decent enough hour to watch a little bit. It was almost always delayed at that point. It was already repeated because I was never there, before 11 o'clock or so.
Right.
And I have a nephew who lives there that is working at an AI, really incredible stuff. So yeah, no visiting, really all business. It was good.
Listen, that's how it is sometimes, right? No time for playing around. We got to just do work.
No, it's the best. Two nights. It was Sunday night. Yeah, 3 nights. But the first night I didn't get there till I probably got to my hotel like 10:15 at night. So beautiful. Wake up in the morning. Let's get going.
Right.
Yeah, those are the quick trips. I like those.
And as people who listen to this podcast know, David is a homebody and creature of habit and likes to be in his routine. So these trips where he's not there lingering for any extended amount of time is perfect because he gets to get back home and get to his routine.
Yeah, I don't want to sound like the old stodgy man, but I'm pretty much the old stodgy man. No, I told my wife I appreciate that she's helped build a life for me that I can't wait to get back to. That being said, the food, LA is great. Like, I don't want to live there, but it's fucking great to visit. And I have a bunch of people to see. And, I saw a lot of basketball, and it's nice to see my players who want to see me and agents who want to see me. It's nice to be liked. And the Asian food there is really good. And, I have no complaints. And then, not that we're going to talk politics, but this podcast was born of the pandemic. Let's not forget that.
Yep.
Seeing Kamala last night, well, first of all, I cried my eyes out when the women talked about losing their kids. And I was literally resting my head on my wife's lap just to relax a little bit. Then that came on. I'm covering her thighs with water, crying. I'm thinking, how is this woman not crying? And then I hear this she was deeply sobbing because she's in elementary school every day with these kids and has to hide in closets 7 times a year or whatever with 5-year-olds, including at one point a couple years ago, nonverbal autistic kindergartners. So
that's got to be a challenge. Good Lord.
Oh my, I can't even go. I don't even know I don't know how she does it. She's texted me pictures, selfies of her and some of her kids. Just try to make light of it. Like, that's what you do. One of the teachers even said, I don't know if she was at Sandy Hook. I think she was a teacher who survived it, obviously, was saying, I think she was trying to sing quietly with her students just to distract them as, the murderous rampage was going on. So anyway, dude, I haven't worn a USA hat in a long fucking time. If we elect this woman, which I suspect that, I like her chance a lot, I'm going to have to give some really serious thought. I'll feel we're a long way from where we need to be, but it'll be, I just trust her and she's great. Anyway, seeing that whole thing was great.
You feel a little patriotic. All right, so you were in LA last week. And
last 2 days, yeah.
You saw Earth, Wind, and Fire last week. How was that?
Oh my God. Dude, I mean, Jarod, seriously. Well, I saw it was Earth, Wind, and Fire in Chicago. Philip Bailey played 3 originals from both, including a 7 and 9-year-old from Chicago.
Nice.
I would have thought he was 65. He didn't move great, but he sang well. Both bands carry like 10 people. So at one point they finished with six songs together.
Nice.
There's 3 drummers and 2 basses, whatever. Just we got good seats, and we really had these were bands I listened to before I met my wife. Most of the stuff we listened to, other than maybe U2, is bands we discovered together or musicians. This was different. So fucking amazing. Yeah, I've had a good one. That was last Friday night. So it's been a good week.
Yeah.
Some grinding work ahead. But no complaints.
Very nice.
Thank you for asking.
Oh, of course. I mean, who doesn't like Earth, Wind, and Fire? They're incredible.
Dude. I mean, Jarod, seriously. Have you seen them?
I have not seen them live. I mean, I listen to all their stuff, but like they're just
seen them.
They're incredible. All right. So you were in LA. You're watching a lot of your players, and what happens in the summertime is a lot of the pro guys play pickup. And David is famous for being like, pickup, But what can be gleaned, David, when you, as what you do, a player development coach, watches pickup, what can you glean from that to say, all right, my guy, I saw you did this, this, and this. This is what we need to work on, or what have you?
Okay, that's a great question. Let me first of all just characterize my feelings on it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fool's gold, typically, commonly, and I'll explain it when I answer the question you asked me. That doesn't mean it's always fool's gold. That doesn't mean it doesn't have any merit. There was a lot of jogging, and our game does have a lot of jogging. There isn't a lot of sprinting, but our game does have the place for sprinting. I was watching film this morning. I put in the virtual library, Josh Hart just racing to the rim, getting a tip in the playoffs, doing Josh Hart things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that happens in pickup, which is nice to see. And so I just think that absent real work, pickup alone is not the answer. So typically, well, every day when I was there, and I think this is every day for guys that I'm helping, when they're done playing, they go to a gym and work after that.
Mm-hmm.
That should tell you something.
Yeah.
So after they're done playing, which is just like that, they're playing, they're not working,
right.
Then they go work. Not every day, I think. Some days are probably a little fatigued, but most of the time they are. I think that's good. So to answer your question, I like my players to go in with a little purpose. As an example, it might be you've always been DHO guy. You're not a shooter. You're not a scorer. You're playing with a really good guard, and you're always doing DHO stuff. Great. Well, maybe you're ready for a more advanced role this year. Maybe that guard that you're playing with is no longer there. The Warriors had Kevon Looney at the pickup. Well, Kevon Looney was going, I think because he went to UCLA, I think he goes every year.
Yep.
I've seen him there a bunch. And first of all, he's lost a person. He's lost 20 plus pounds, I bet. He looks amazing. As does Zion, who was not there, but that was the buzz, is if you've seen the Zion pictures, he looks great. I talked to someone today that spoke to Willie Green. He apparently looks incredible. The pictures are accurate. So anyway, Looney lost Klay Thompson. So those of us watching the games are like, okay, he's shooting threes now. He's taking jumpers. He's driving to the basket, dunking on guys. Got a lob dunk one of the days I was there. They need someone to score more than they did before. Klay Thompson still scored a decent amount of points last year. So that is helpful if you have to be someone that needs to do more than what you've done in the past. Also, if you have a player that's always been the man, which is a lot of rookies, my advice to them when they go to these things is don't turn the ball over, play great defense, make simple plays, play off the ball well, set good screens, chase offensive rebounds, rebound everything you can defensively. Start acclimating yourself to being a guy that isn't going to be the target of the offense, because you aren't going to be the target of your offense. And you don't want training camp to be the first time you do that. So remember, we may have said this last week, getting your star player to believe in you is a great way to get into the rotation. I don't know if we talked about that.
We did.
Okay. So forgive me for that. So this is a good place to practice that. Not to say there was stars there. I don't remember seeing any. But it's good to practice that. But by and large, it's not necessarily indicative of anything. And so as long as you understand that, you're going to be fine.
Is it a good, so, let's say you're working with a player on a particular skill they're adding to their repertoire. Is it a good place to, okay, now let's do the skill we've worked on by ourselves into a game-like scenario? It isn't fault, but it's game-like.
For sure. I would prefer 2-on-2, 3-on-3 for stuff like that. You get way more reps. You don't get the ball a lot in these things. These games are fast. The court's super cramped. The whole atmosphere is cramped. And at UCLA, there's other runs at Loyola Marymount that I went to. I didn't go to the runs at Marymount. I went to workouts there. The runs, they hadn't done them. The day I was there, they didn't do them. But I heard like Harden and Trae Young and some better talent was at Loyola Marymount than the UCLA. UCLA, the Sixers were there. The Bucks were there. A lot of Clippers players because they're in LA. And then a lot of just individuals who like to go to LA or live or have lived in LA or whatever. So, I think that it's a good time to show what you've been working on. Like, remember, I always say, do in practice that which you'll do in games, and do in games what you've been practicing. So absolutely. Yeah, that part exists. As long as they don't think, I did well here, I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're going to be fine. I just don't think it should take the place of real work.
Yep. You often talk about as well the importance of coaching, particularly as it relates to, you'll often hear fans say things like, "Oh, I love that we picked up this veteran guy because he's like, going to help X player," and you're like, "Well, if they play the same position, probably not," and you don't like that, right? But you love a guy like Chris Paul going to the Spurs because his ability to understand the pick and roll will be beneficial for a guy like Wemby, right? Who's learning all the nuances, right? You get to tap into Chris Paul's big PhD basketball brain. Do you feel there is an advantage and a benefit to this idea of iron sharpens iron, right? So even though they're not playing full speed, it is all pros together. No advantage there.
No, because they're not competing.
Okay.
Yeah. I think I saw 0 charges. So I watched, let's say there's 12 sessions of games, 6 games each day on 3 different courts. So 36 games across 3 courts. There's no way I was able to see everything. I didn't even notice Scoot Henderson for other reasons too, the first day.
Yeah.
But although I think he only played 1 game, that's part of, I didn't notice him, is that he wasn't even on the court. When he was, I didn't notice him at all until he was getting off. I don't think I saw a single charge taken. I don't think I saw a single dive on the floor. Some guys kind of slowly melted to the floor to get a loose ball, but there was no. My son once broke a shoulder bone diving on the floor, or chipped his bone.
Now they also try not to get themselves hurt, is my imagine too, right?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So there you go, though. Yeah. Again, work on the stuff you've been working on in practice by yourself or with a small group. I think that's fine. I don't think it's great for fitness unless you supplement it. Then it's fine. Then you're getting some work in. The guys are getting sweaty. I know, because when I hugged them, I was wet. But they're not. It's not high level stuff. They need to supplement it. In fact, that's what I told some of the guys that I was talking to. Y'all should be supplementing that with some extra work.
Yeah.
There was a player. I've talked about this a few times before, Jarod, where put a young player in with pros who's talented and he'll look really good. Put that same player with a bunch of high school kids and he won't look as good. And so there was a young man who's in the G League. He was in the Ignite last year. He's back this year. I don't know for sure what team he's going to. I know he's draft eligible. He looked great, but he also was playing with Kevon Looney and Deshaun Tate and Amari Bailey, who looked really, really good. And I'd heard he was playing really well, who doesn't have a job right now. He's a second-round pick out of UCLA. Very good, he looked. But so this young man moved without the ball well, defended, played the right way, 6'7", long-armed guard. But he's not going to look like that playing in the G League because he doesn't have Looney and Tate to know how to play next to him.
Yeah.
And so I just think it could be a little fool's gold. Yeah.
So do you think that causes, and look, I don't profess to say that everybody in the NBA that's in charge of scouting and player development is bad or good at their job. But if you don't know what you're doing and you are a scout PD guy from an NBA team and you're watching this, will that fool you, right? So you see Amari Bailey looking good next to Jason Tate and next to Kevon Looney, but then you watch him in G League and he sucks and you're like, he sucks. He's not very good, right? Is that a mistake on your part because you don't know how to differentiate? Well, those guys can play. These guys can't.
I sat both days with a longtime executive and scout with an NBA team. And, these guys have seen these players a lot. Like he was telling me, I saw him play for Basketball Without Borders when he was 17 and whatever. And so I think it just all adds up into the whole thing. It gives you reference points. It gives you some breadth of understanding. If he's struggling in the G League, but you know how well he played with better players, you can't put much stock in this because the games are so blah. But it's something to make you think, you know what? I think he does have a chance. To the workers go the spoils, right? So you got to go to these things. That's why this guy was there. In fact, he brought his son. Go watch these guys and maybe learn something.
Yeah,
I think it's smart.
Yeah, and it will help you. I think to your point about reference points, if you are someone who is able to recognize your own cognitive bias and sort of like not let it control things, it will help you instead of saying, oh, the first time I watched this kid, he sucked. And maybe he doesn't always suck, but that's so hard for most of us, right? If that your first impression of something is almost always what you refer back to for whatever reason. That's just how our brains work. So this ability to kind of see other things and be like, maybe if I get this guy into camp, he might be okay. Now, of course, your challenge with that is you're limited with how many people you can bring to camp. I don't know what the number is, but they don't can bring in so many. So I get it.
Yeah, I mean, it's an inexact science for sure. But from a player development standpoint, which is the standpoint I normally take, I don't think it's the answer. I think it can be part of the answer, part of the solution, but it shouldn't be the main part of the solution. And I think for too many players, it is, and that's to their detriment, in my opinion.
Yeah. One of the things that's interesting too, David, is sort of like you mentioned Looney and Tate, and you mentioned Harden and Trae Young, and Harden and Looney especially because they're more older vet guys. This idea between some vets who in the summer don't play any pickup, right? They just do work with their skill guy like you, their player development coach, and they do their normal, physical activity and their physio and all that stuff, but they don't do any playing until they get to training camp. I assume you kind of lean more towards that. You probably like that better, particularly if you're a veteran type player.
I think that there needs to be I'm really glad you asked me. There needs to be a very thorough approach, strategy, detailed approach to off-season. So if we start at the end, which is how I do it normally, because I do this for a lot of players, I outline their entire summer plan. So we start with, okay, when do you have to go back to camp? Okay, when does the team need you back? Which in most cases is one more week. Mm-hmm. People start coming around Labor Day. Some of the really high-paid veterans can go mid to late September because camp doesn't start until October.
Right.
Especially if they have the trust of the coaching staff that they're going to be working each day. Then don't worry about coming early. The young guys will be here, the middle class too. So then we work backwards. The last 2 or 3 weeks prior to that, we want to start getting into great shape. Because I don't like using camp to get into shape. I like to get to camp in shape. And that's my thing. And my players will normally follow me on that. So, okay, we pencil in winter vacations and that kind of thing. And when do you get to be with your team at other events? Like a bunch of the Mavericks were in Dallas hanging out with Clay. I think Clay invited people. I don't think the Mavericks were doing it. This coming weekend, I believe a lot of the Thunder will be in Toronto at Shea's request.
Very nice.
I don't know what they'll be doing. So I normally find out if I have a player going to one of these things. Okay, what do y'all be doing? Because you might have to supplement it. You're going to camp in a month. We got to start playing pickup soon. So we can't wait to get in shape. So for veterans, we just have to make sure we're smart about it. We have to be in shape pretty much by that last week before you got to your team. You should be in good shape. So now it's just a matter of cleaning up some details. And just make sure you get your reps on your shooting and your handle, whatever. Because in a game, you might start doing what you always do, and yet we want to be ready to grow your game a little bit, that kind of thing.
Yep. No, that makes perfect sense, right? I mean, it's similar in a way if I'm outlining, right, like a plan for swimming, right, for an athlete. Okay, what are our two peaks that we're bringing down for? Okay, and then we work our way backwards from there, right? And that'll get us, that'll inform everything that we're doing. No, it makes total sense. All right, folks, we'll be back after a brief commercial break. All right, David, we had a fun little thing we did yesterday on one of our True Hoop calls, and it was born from a conversation you were having out in LA. And we're like, I wonder which conference is better than the other. And we really we applied some methodology. Henry did a 10-point system. I did a 3-point system. Like you went through,
and I did something a little different. I literally did the records for every team. I do it every year anyway. So kill two birds with one stone. Where I projected everyone's record, and that way I have a good idea of where I think the better. So basically, at dinner, it was a longtime veteran, multiple championship finals appearances and all of that. A second-year player who was a first-round pick, a third-year player that's on the periphery of the NBA. He's been in the NBA some, but he's not locked in totally there. And then a guy that's draft eligible down the road, and then an agent, and then his office manager. And we just started talking about which is the better conference, and it was really a fun. And then we also got into surprise teams. I didn't even tell you that part of the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, so because one of the guys, two of the guys said Memphis.
Well, listen,
including the really smart player, the one that's been around a long time. He said, "Man, John Morant's good." So, yeah, so I said, "Yeah, let's do it at True Hoop and get into the same conversation." It was good.
And ultimately, we all pretty much netted out with the same contenders, right? I mean, for the most part, we're all like, yeah, this team. I mean, honestly, and we're going to be releasing the first piece came out today about the Denver Nuggets. So you guys should get on truth.com and make sure you subscribe so you can read that. That one was free. So lucky you guys, it's all free for everyone. The rest of them won't be. So make sure you subscribe so you can watch them. And we are all of the belief that the Boston Celtics right now, as it stands, are the best team in the league, right? Defending champions, just top to bottom that roster. That's the best.
Everyone back.
Right. Mm-hmm. And then from there, we went down and down who's who, who's what. Some of us like the Knicks a little bit more than others, but everyone's got the same. Oklahoma City Thunder, we all like. The Wolves, all the same teams are in there. But Denver's a team, David, that you and I, we express real concern for. You, for the last few years, have been saying, look, I love their starting five, and we've said it, net rating, best, all that, but that depth scares you. Well, that depth's coming into play now because they lost KCP to Orlando, and that is a huge point. And I love that what you mentioned in the article because you said, okay, they've got all these young guys, and we like the idea of potential and talent in young guys.
Yeah.
But
Hayden
what
Watson,
are the chances any of them is as good as KCP right now?
Yeah, very little. Right, very little. They're different anyway. None of them play like him, although I'm sure they'd love Christian Brown to play like him. Shoot three well, 39% last year, I think, maybe 38. And plus defender. And I don't know that Brown can do either of those things well. He's only in year three, starting in year three. So, yeah, that's why I had him at 46 wins. Because of Murray's casual, kind of below average look this summer, which absolutely can be a product of something that'll be gone by the time he gets to camp. So I allow for that.
Yep.
He better, or they're really in trouble.
Yeah.
And then who knows how Jokic handles it.
Well, it's so interesting you brought that up about KCP. And by the way, I just looked, he was 40% from three last year. So what are the chances that Brown's that? Probably not. It's highly likely that he's not going to be 40% three-point shooter. Zero. There we go.
Let the record put out a
0%.
First, I'm tired, and I put a 0. Yeah.
So that's a huge miss, right? And also, as you mentioned before, David, a player that knows how to play basketball.
Started for two champions.
Right? Like he just...
Two different champions.
Yes.
Playing very differently, started. You know, and let me say this is neither here nor there, but I want to say it. I may have told you this once before. When he was in the league as a rookie, Kevin Martin was a very good player in the NBA. And maybe nearing the end, but Kevin called me after a game they played, and he said, that guy's going to be around a long time. I said, what? He wasn't doing anything. I said, why do you think? He said, he just got that build, that look, and he seems a real solid guy. He's going to be shooting threes, playing defense for a long time. And Ken was right. KC's been doing this a long time now. And Denver lost him and don't have a replacement for him.
No.
So,
and you know, we all know the saying, game recognized game, right? So clearly, like Kevin's like, oh no, I see it in this guy. What I love about KCP too, David, is, and I know you love this about him, he competes, man. Like that dude competes. And that is such a, like, I don't know how to say it. It's such a valuable skill, like, to have.
Competes, and maybe you know this better than me. I wouldn't be surprised if you do. Has he ever, like, been controversial?
There was something that happened in LA where he might have been under house arrest for something. I feel like I don't remember what the situation was.
Well, okay, so I did not expect you to say that.
But here's the thing:
I meant
he's not a problem in the locker room. Yes, no,
that's what I meant.
Not at all.
Like he came in as a lottery pick, scoring machine. He's embraced being a role player. I think fully has for a while.
Yes,
and has 2 championships for it.
Yeah. That is a piece that, again, we know they don't have anyone to make that up. That's number one. Number two, you mentioned Jamal Murray. I'm with you. I talked about being concerned, but look, I will give him the benefit of the doubt and say maybe something was weird. And
Yep.
But here's the thing, David. It's always, Jamal Murray is kind of like an all-star. Listen, he's shown us in small sample sizes, and that's what the playoff series are. They are small sample sizes.
Right.
He has not shown us from beginning to end of a season that I am an all-star, let alone all NBA level guard.
That's right.
Now, if he can reach that ceiling, well then,
then they're over 50 wins, and but
then all good.
But that's a big ask. Even out the depth, they're over 50 wins, but that's a big ask right now.
Correct. And the other piece you mentioned, the other thing you mentioned in your piece was, you worry about one of my favorite guys, Michael Porter Jr. And I love where you went. You said, look, the strife going on with his family, I don't know how that's sitting with him, and I don't know either. Like, he's got a brother who's in jail. I forget something else happened to another brother. Like, there's some things going on with his family. And look, like anybody else, you have a fight with your partner or whatever, it affects your work. Like, this family's pretty close.
Look what happened with Wiggins.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to some Warriors players the last couple of years. Wiggins' issue with his dad really fucked him up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't think he's going to play better because his brother got arrested.
Definitely not. So this is, and Michael Porter Jr. is the kind of guy with the offensive ceiling that, like, man, if this guy, so if Murray is an all-star and MPJ is, well, then now we're not worried. And I'm like, oh, you're fine now. But those are big ifs. And I don't know. I don't know if we're there yet. Or if Michael Malone is going to be the chef that can get it all to coalesce right.
Well, I have to say that I'm disappointed in you.
Uh-oh.
Because, Jarod, you just said if MPJ does his thing, and,
right.
Jamal Murray's an all-star, where was the cooking with grease? I say it all the time now.
You're waiting for me to say, now we're cooking. Well, yes, they would be cooking with grease for sure.
Right.
That were the
Hot grease.
Hot grease.
I was talking to I have a partner in another business, Pete, and the other day, and he was describing something like this in our business, and I'm like, yeah, they would be cooking with grease, and he had no comment. So when we hang up, I'm going to meet him for lunch, and I'm going to tell him he's heard the podcast, but he didn't make the connection. So yeah, it's now I'm comfortable talking, and I don't cook with grease or without it for that matter. I'm not proud of that. I'm just not good at it, and don't enjoy it very much at all. My wife knocks herself out. I don't know how she does it, but the cooking with grease is a good comment. And yeah, Denver doesn't need depth if they've got those three all-stars, but if they're just to have Jokic and two guys that are lesser than, and then no depth, Houston's got a problem. Denver's got a problem.
For sure. And so I wonder about this. So one of the things that you then ask is, what does Jokic do if that is the case, right? So if those two players aren't what we think, what then happens? And, the common refrain I think everyone's going to go to is, well, Jokic isn't like everybody, like all these other superstars. He's not going to demand a trade. He's not going to do this. He'll be fine and just be happy going back to Serbia. He get more time to play with his horses. I'm going to push back on that, David. I don't know that to be true. What I do know is he's competitive and wants to win. So it may present itself outwardly different than how LeBron would do it, but I can't imagine he's going to be happy like, all right, we're fine. I'll get home to Serbia early and I can go play with my horses. I don't think so.
Right. Well, you said it. You don't know. And I think I'd rather look at it from the perspective you're taking than the average person. Oh, we'll be fine. He's gonna be fine. Everything's fine. Like, how do you know everything's gonna be fine?
I agree.
Where is it written that it's going to be fine? I've not seen that textbook.
Yeah.
It could absolutely be a mess.
Yeah. No. It's interesting, and it's this idea of when you have a world's best player like Nikola Jokic.
Yeah.
Hey, man, you gotta. And I know it's hard, but how can I maximize this guy's window so we give ourselves as many bites at the apple as possible? Right. And right now, the bite at the apple ain't looking great this year, barring those things we mentioned happening, which I don't know. They could not, right? A million things.
Nothing's written in stone on that.
Yeah. And then, right, what happens to Michael Malone? Like, we already know there's some kind of friction potentially with Calvin Booth and him.
I think so.
Is he there? Is he long for that job? Maybe not, which would be so crazy. 2 years removed from a championship, and it's already like...
Happened before.
Oh, you're right.
Ask Frank Vogel. Ask Bud.
Yeah.
Ask Nick.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
That might be the best way to get fired. Win a championship.
It used to be win coach of the year. Oh, guaranteed to get fired next year.
Yeah. Now take it up and now win a championship. You're gone in 2 years.
I mean, I'm not laughing. I don't root for people to lose their jobs, but this is the nature of this business.
It's humorous.
Right? And it's hard. And the league has changed, right? And the conference has changed. Minnesota looks like the real deal, though we have questions about them, which we'll get to when your Minnesota piece comes out. We love what Oklahoma City does. And remember, not only are they young and ascending, they have all the pieces necessary to go get somebody else to then make them that much better.
Which is a big deal, yeah.
And Memphis, and it's not just because I'm in the bag for Memphis, though I am. That's a team that everyone forgot about, was mainly because their best player was out hurt and it was a shoulder injury, right? So he comes back and he's like a Ferrari ready to roll. And we found all those development players that got better in the time that he was gone. Jaren Jackson Jr. is a former defensive player of the year. Desmond Bain.
Yeah.
This was a 2 years in a row. I mean,
right. Well, right. We'll get to Memphis,
yes.
But I'll just to finish this thought. They have a hole at the 5.
They do. What did I call him on our call yesterday? I'm not worried about that 12-year-old 7'4".
Yeah.
Let me ask you this question about him, even though because we went there. If he's just good at setting screens and rebounding, is that enough?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. He's going to have to be a garbage man, too. You don't got to post him up, but he's got to score efficiently around the rim, I think.
Okay.
I think. And he's got to be able to guard space some. I heard he's shooting threes. Like, I'm rooting for him.
Yeah.
I'm rooting for him. I saw Donovan Clingan.
You didn't like that.
He looked terrible.
Yeah.
No. But, he's going to be fine. It's just, it's hard.
He's a rookie.
And there's a lot to this kid is a rookie, yeah.
He's a large human.
Big fucking guy. Jeez.
God, he's so big.
He makes Shaq look small.
This is, by the way, again, you can take all these videos for what they're worth, as David says, they're not worth anything. But I have seen he's been with John Morant for the last several weeks, the two of them working on pick and roll. Just the two of them in a gym. So I don't know if it means anything, but they're together.
Thank you, James Harden, for that with Zubats.
Correct.
Kind of setting the tone with Zubats. I love that. It's great.
And I mean, at worst, at least
he's been with John Morant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Zach Edey. Zach Edey.
Yes.
Okay, not Clay.
Not Clingan. Zach
Edey. No, that's great. No, that's really good. He's an enormous man.
Yeah.
He's bigger than Clingan.
Yeah. So if they just get their timing down on pick and roll, so he knows, all right, this is when Ja comes and stops. Cool.
Get a feel for it. Yeah,
we'll see.
Get your hands better too.
Something interesting that you found that I love. So one of the great relationships that was born out of Team USA, but it's well before Team USA, because Anthony Edwards, Minnesota Timberwolves superstar, talked about Kevin Durant being his favorite player coming up. And we all saw that playoff series last year where he had so much fun going up against his idol, right? Had the dunk over him, was like hooping and hollering, doing the whole thing, like just had a great time. He's like, I can't wait to play with him this summer. And I remember he said after that series, I'm gonna remind him, hey KD, remember when I sent you home in 4 games in the playoffs? I mean, that's just classic Ant, right? That's just who he is. And if you look at Durant and his interactions, like he loves it. He's like, he loves it. A player like that loves basketball so much.
Right. I think that's exactly it. A guy that can hoop like that is who loves the game so much. Durant loves it.
That's it. If he can hang out with people like that every day for the rest of his life, that's all he wants to do. People who loves ball as much as he does and are really good at it. Good luck. Ain't that many people in the world like that. Now, moving on. They were in New York for the Fanatics FanFest conference.
That's why we're there. Okay, I didn't know why. Okay.
Last week, and they were sharing a stage, and Jalen Rose is moderating. They were talking partly about the Olympics. But it was a great conversation. I'll let David elaborate on it because he thought there was something very interesting that Anthony said in that conversation.
Yeah, so first of all, I don't know that I've ever been more wrong about projecting a player. I did not project Anthony Edwards to be a bad player, nothing like that. It was more of just, I mean, he was at Georgia. That's his fault. He couldn't go to Georgia. Had he gone to a school that actually competed for championships, we could have got a much better feel for him. He was bored in the SEC for sure on a bad team. But what a refreshing breath of fresh air that dude is in every way. Really, I mean, I couldn't be a bigger fan. And he was self-deprecating in the video you saw, where initially when Jalen talked about being on the court, whatever, and Edwards like, man, I was on the bench. Like he didn't take it personally,
right?
Which I'm really proud of him for that. Speaking as an older guy, but Edwards talked about noticing when I'm on the court late in games, it's hero ball. He said that word, I believe, hero.
He said exactly that.
Yeah, but he's like, I noticed these guys swing, penetrate kick, shot fake attack, swing out. Like we were doing that, and then the other part that I liked was KD talking about not calling many plays late and just playing basketball, which he loves to do. That's what Kevin, you chose to leave the Warriors. They didn't call plays. They played the game. That was your choice. But I like that. I think our game would be better if it was more fluid, if we coached more fluidly with guys, had them run systems with fluidity in it. And then, of course, the teams that have real talent will be that much harder to guard because It's hard to scout those teams because
Yeah.
they have a counter for everything you're doing.
Yeah, no, it was a wonderful conversation. And yes, it was swing pass. And it's, we talked about this earlier during the Olympics run. And I said, look, it's much easier for these guys who are all alphas on their teams to do swing. Because when you're swinging, next to you is LeBron, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, like the best of all time. So of course you're going to be like, oh, I'm not worried. I know that guy's going to do what he's got to do with the ball in his hand. For a young player like Ant, who has so much self-confidence, okay, passing to Steph's one thing. Passing to Jaden McDaniels.
But that's what he's got to learn.
Yes.
The limits of what he can do, and also what are the ceilings he can get to with his team. And better off for making the extra pass early and then playing with it, reconfiguring as the season goes on.
Mm-hmm. And you can get the ball back. And also realizing that if you want to be successful in this league, it's about we and not me, right? As much as one individual player can have a dramatic impact on a game. We've seen it since, and it will always be that way because it's only 5-on-5. That's just how it goes. Right. But still, we can do so much more if we are all empowered. And so that's what I think he's going to learn, and he's learning from his time with Team USA. I'm excited to see what Minnesota will be. And like I said, we'll talk about them when their piece comes out. I do worry about Rudy being older and Mike Conley being older. That's concerning to me. But I do say, if Jaden McDaniels, because he's already an elite defender, if that shot's consistent, well, now talk about cooking with grease. Now we're talking.
I'd like to see improvement at the point guard spot.
Well, they need that
in terms of depth. Yeah, I can't believe they get Tyus Jones, who's in Phoenix now, and he's gonna make a difference there. I don't know what they're doing. But
I think he's gonna help Phoenix a lot. Like he'll be.
I do too. We'll get to Phoenix.
Yeah,
I had Phoenix with one of the better records in the West.
Yeah. And maybe they keep Cat in Minnesota, David. Maybe they decide, you know what? Like, great shooting big man, and we keep him.
I think Cat, Rudy, Naz Reid, someone's going. But I don't know who it's going to be. That's my guess. And it won't be a rush. They won't be in a rush.
No. Well, the Cat and Naz will get you the most back in return. So if you're trying to fill your coffers, then it's got to be one of the two of them, if that is your goal.
No doubt of that. Yeah.
All right, folks, enjoy the weekend. We will see you next week. Take care.